Now, as far as cardiovascular disorders are concerned, apart from the diagnostic criteria that we have and the diagnostic tools that we have, we do need the help of inflammatory markers. Now, mainly my talk will be restricted to inflammatory markers because I have not used turmeric in heart disease still. But to the same analogy for orthopedics, what they say that if you say that all diseases are inflammation, whether the same molecule can be useful for treatment of cardiovascular disorders, that time will prove. I am not, Dr. Vyasa will be able to comment on that because I have not done any studies on that. So, same thing we have shown in the first slide where it was arthritis, as they say arthritis is inflammation. So, similarly, in cardiovascular disorders also it's an inflammation, whether it's bacterial, whether it's autoimmune, or whether at the level of the endothelium. Now, if you go back, when I was a medical student, we had a lot of patients with rheumatic heart disease. Nowadays, you hardly see any. Good that India has probably nearly eradicated rheumatic fever. And there was also, we used to take help of the inflammatory markers, the C-reactive protein and the ESR. ESR is very, very simple thing. And the ASO titer. And I have seen that those days also the children were supposed to play outside, were forced to take bed rest till the ASO titer comes down, till the ASR comes down, till the CRP also comes down. Now, same analogy is applicable to coronary artery disease. Same analogy applicable to the gastritis and peptic ulcers. The H. pylori also, they are supposed to be inflammation. And when a person suffers an acute coronary syndrome, it's definitely an inflammation because of the rupture of the plaque. See, initially the statins were used in the treatment for dyslipidemias because their main action is at the HMG coenzyme A inhibitors. But then we realized the pleiotropic effects of statins at the level of the endothelium because it stabilizes the plaque. So, whenever I get a patient of acute coronary syndrome, I first tell the RMO or referring doctor to give 80 milligrams of atorvastatin or 40 milligrams of rosuvastatin, an aspirin, soluble aspirin tablet, and clopidogrel before he sends the patient to the hospital for further management. So, that itself shows that we are now trying to attack at the molecular level, at the cellular level, and therefore, there we have to take the help of the markers. The inflammation is common in heart disease as well as in strokes also, and we know the theory of the ruptured plaque. Even a 30% occluding plaque of the vessel can kill a person because when it ruptures, the 30% becomes 100% by virtue of another 70% clot which makes it 100%, and that is the time you suffer a stroke or an acute myocardial infarction. So, again, C-reactive protein is one of the inflammatory markers when used. Actually, we don't use it as we should use it in a prevention aspect of it because that has been used in the Jupiter trial where the CRP or HSCRP was used as a marker to find out how much reduction in the cardiovascular events can be achieved. They analyzed healthy volunteers. They had no cardiovascular symptoms or no evidence of cardiovascular disease. Their LDL was high. Along with that, when they found HSCRP was high, these selected class of people, they were given 20 milligrams of rosuvastatin and they found significant reduction in future cardiovascular events. So, that is one use of an inflammatory marker which can predict future events. So, this is a biochemical change that occurs whenever there is an inflammation, ischemia, whether it's at muscular level or myocardial level, low oxygen supply, lot of cascade of events take place at the molecular level, and therefore there is a release of the biochemical markers. Now, on the left side you have the chest pain. Now, when a patient comes with chest pain, we wonder what it could be, and especially If you find that the ECG is normal, what to do? Because ECG changes may not immediately, will not be seen. Now, that's why there is a category called acute coronary syndrome. Initially, we used to talk about unstable angina, acute pre-infarction syndrome and acute infarction syndrome. We used to call subendocardial infarction. Now we call it as unstable angina, non-ST elevation MI or ST elevation MI. The concepts are clear. When you have an ECG showing acute ST elevation, patient has to go for an angioplasty, a primary angioplasty, or he has to go for a thrombolytic therapy. Now, if a non-ST elevation MI, again, we need not be that aggressive unless the patient becomes unstable. The third category, where you have got chest pain, the ECG is normal, what to do? And it's very risky to send such patient home because he will land up in infarct and complications also. That is where the cardiac troponins comes to our help. The cardiac troponins are the earliest ones which go up and give you a guideline whether you are dealing with a ischemic episode of chest pain or otherwise. So this is what we want to find out. So what is the ideal biological marker in a situation of acute myocardial infarction? It should be sensitive and specific, which I am going to come when we talk about the troponins. It can give you some prognostic value. Then reproducible, simple, inexpensive, easily accessible. So all these things. So which are the good markers? Again, it can differentiate between infarct and non-infarct, acute myocardial infarction, whereas other causes of chest pain, and prognosis, as I mentioned earlier, something like degree of severity or the infarct size. So again, the C-reactive protein also is there, but we don't use. Myeloperoxidase is also we don't use. Extracellular matrix remodeling, neurohormones, so many of them, but we have to concentrate mainly on the troponins. And there is a brain natriuretic peptides, which I'll discuss later on about the when it comes to cardiac failure. This is the classical graph which shows that you have the troponin which suddenly rises and there is a slow fall. CPKMB also is quite useful. We have been using that. It's not the CKM, but the cardiac CKMB, which is quite sensitive as far as the chest pain because of ischemic injury is concerned. So troponins are the gold standard nowadays. Initially, the troponin T was there, which was something like a qualitative one. So troponin T is positive. You have to explain to the patient that you are heading for some problem. You need to be admitted for observation, and then we plan something for the future. But when it comes to troponin I, which is something like a quantitative measurement, in that case, you definitely have to tell the patient that you need hospitalization and follow up. By the time you develop ECG changes, it may be too late. But if you are in a hospital setting with a high troponin I, then something can be done to prevent any disaster. And then you have now tropomycin and the troponin T also available. There are various isoforms also available. Definitely the science is progressing, but the take-home message is troponin I has been more sensitive than any other one. The advantage is that higher sensitivity than CKMB. CKMB we used to say very classical, and more than 25 used to be a cutoff point that time. And then false positive results in other settings are not there as compared to CKMB, because the muscle trauma also contributes to the rise in CKMB. And the death due to acute coronary syndrome is the prognosis is also, and this is the comparative study of all these four in troponin and the death. See, this is so proportionate, this linear relationship with the rise of troponin or troponin I in this patient. So definitely that if the troponin I is very high, you have to prognosticate that the patient is heading for a serious. There are situations where you can get troponin high because of pulmonary embolism, myocarditis, heart failure, but ultimately any marker that you investigate has to be interpreted in the context of the patient. Now tomorrow if a patient is suspected to be a pulmonary embolism, and if I do a D dimer, if it is high, the whole thing fits into the suspicion. Of course, you have the ECG changes if are not there. Of course, you have the echo findings. That's a different issue. But in case of pulmonary embolism, the D-dimer comes to your help. So similarly, the normal ECG, troponin I, definitely a very important inflammatory marker. Then there are so many others also. Again, the same graph we used to do something like LDH. Previously we used to do SGOT, AGPT and LDH, and we used to see the rise. No, SGOT will first rise and come down, and third day that LDH will rise. So this we have already gone through. Nowadays we don't do LDH regularly because LDH again also has false positive results also. Same thing happens with CK, the plain CK. I'm not talking CKMB. And again, time will not permit me to go into details of the whole thing. Dr. Ahuja will again say it's too late now. The CK isoenzyme, that is the specificity of the cardiac. See, brain, if you suffer a stroke, it will not go up. Absolutely, very, very nearly negligible. But cardiac CKMB is specific, and therefore, if you get a positive response, it has to be. So this is again the rise and fall of CKMB in comparison with myoglobin, LDH and troponin I. If you have facility to do all of them, you can definitely have a better prognosis as far as your patient is concerned. But whatever is available, you should make use of that. Again, same thing, limitations because of other diseases giving rise to high CP, CKMB also. Myoglobin also I don't think is available anywhere regularly in the nearby laboratories, so it is just a theoretical thing. This is the specificity. Again, in comparison with all the cardiac markers that we have, troponin I has a 99% sensitivity and specificity selectively for cardiac muscle injury. Then comes CKMB, total CK and myoglobin, and therefore the other ones we have stopped using nowadays. CKMB we have been using, we have been doing regularly, and troponin I also. Again, I just made a note of that. There are old markers which lactic, the LDH and the lactic aspirate transferase. Unless there is a need, we don't do that. Or patient develops pain again after third or fourth day, then LDH will be helpful to decide whether it's a cardiac pain or otherwise. But because nowadays the cardiac treatment has become so aggressive that we don't wait for the third day. If he doesn't undergo primary angioplasty, he undergoes thrombotic therapy, and again within 20 to 48 hours he goes into cath lab to have the coronary anatomy, and according to coronary anatomy he is offered either an invasive or a non-invasive treatment. So there's no question about assessing the patient on the third or fourth day. There are some future markers. The atrial natriuretic peptide, the beta natriuretic peptide is not a future, it's already in the presence. We have been using them regularly. The BNP is, to make a note of that, is specifically helpful for congestive heart failure patients. I remember my ward days way back in 1967 when patient of acute left ventricular failure used to get admitted. They used to all orthopnic. As the treatment progresses, when you give them diuretics and other treatment, their orthopnea becomes less. They are able to lie down. But my teacher used to tell me, when a patient of orthopnea, when he is able to lie down, don't say he's improved. He may have deteriorated. He's gone into congestive cardiac failure. He's gone to right ventricular failure. He's gone to biventricular failure. So right ventricle has taken the load of the left ventricle. Therefore, orthopnic patient is now lying down comfortably. You palpate the liver, you will get 4-finger livers over there. And another thing, patient comes with congestive heart failure with edema of feet, puffiness of face, jugular vein enlargement, classical signs of cardiac failure. He improves with injection Lasix and whatever diuretics and other drug that you give. But don't discharge the patient unless you make him sit up and press on his sacrum. Patient's edema has disappeared, but he is lying down. So his edema has now moved onto sacrum. So sacral edema, which is gone into the head, it's a classical bedside teaching. We didn't have much of investigation that time. So this is how you prognosticate the patient. Why I gave this example is for the BNP. Patient has improved clinically with your treatment, but BNP, unless it comes down, it's a sign of bad prognosis. You may land up with cardiac failure again, or you have to modify your treatment. Have you missed anything? Why the patient's BNP is not coming down? So that is how an inflammatory marker helps you to prognosticate the patient. On one side, we are talking about troponin I, where you are diagnostic, where you have now BNP, which is a prognostic inflammatory markers. Same, we have got C type, D type, all of them will come, all hormones function, and then other things also. So this is the mechanism of these natriuretic peptides. Same thing. See, BNP encodes with mortality, as I mentioned about prognosis. With the high BNP, medium and low, that's what happens. Again, proper cutoff values are not being seen, not standardization, variability, all these things is the teething problem. But there's an awareness now. Majority of labs are doing BNP now. That people are asking for it, so they say, yes, we have the kit to do that, and people are making use of that. See, HbA1c, when it came, it was very expensive. We used to ask the person to do it once in 6 months or so, but now it is available around the corner. T3, T4 TS is very expensive. Nowadays, every alternate patient we are asking for that. So it all depends upon the awareness. Once the doctor starts requesting for this, the pathologist will cooperate with you. And the price will come down, and that will help. So these are all various newer markers also. These are the newer markers, what is called ischemia modified albumin. There are so many of them. This is not a topic for 15 minutes, it's more than half an hour. Again, same thing, comparison with CPM, CKMB and troponin. So this is quite sensitive. Look at this on the left side. Then myeloperoxidase also. So all these future cardiac markers are in the pipeline. No need not worry about that.